where young men are going to revolt. They're the ones that we use to fight wars. They're the ones that we use to police streets. You don't get to alienate and attempt to emasculate them forever without them standing up and having something to say about that. You're right, they lied to you about these attributes, but you have to develop in the way that they're going to go, because the only way that you're going to save the sort of society that you want to live in, the only way that you're going to create it, is if you stand up and you actually assume that role. And it sucks that you have to do it under these conditions, but you do. That for those of us that are trying to educate young men in a way that we think will use those traits toward a noble purpose, you're making it really hard for us to do our jobs right now. And again, you're going to be the ones that pay the price, not us.
So there's a lot of discussion on YouTube and elsewhere online about what masculinity, what healthy masculinity could be, because toxic masculinity, of course, is the moniker of the day for all things manly. There are some voices online that can present a good example of what it means to be a man in our current context and in our modern era, that take some of the skills and the passed down generational benefits of being a man, and they encapsulate them into communication that can be taken in by the average young person. And since so many men in America are now raised without fathers in the home, they are listening to online content to try to generate some of their understanding of how to interact with the world, who basically says they're toxic and doesn't like them. I'd like to give credit to some of the orators that I think are so good at expressing what it looks like to be a man today. And you'll notice a lot of them I have three categories, right? So primary sources of what it looks like to be a good man, secondary sources, and then sources to be avoided. So going off of the first list, Jesus Christ is the ultimate, and some people will turn me off in this moment, but Jesus Christ is the ultimate ideal of what it looks like to be a man. And there is no doubt in my mind that everybody, except for possibly one who made the first list in my book of demonstrating what it looks like to be a good man, follows Jesus. So Nick Freitas, John Lovell, Chris Williamson, Jordan Peterson, Brad Wilcox, Michael Knowles, Rudyard Lynch, Nate Sala, Brandon Tatum, Charlie Kirk, Patrick Bet-David. All of these are men who are online right now teaching your sons what it looks like to be a man, especially if your son happened to be raised without a father. Now, hopefully, for most of us, that's the category, in my opinion, that they can look to and listen to for not just historical context, but also religious context or social context about what it looks like, psychological context, what it looks like to be a good man. Here's some middle ground, people that I would see as a secondary source that could potentially give good information about manhood, has some aspects of them that are beneficial and could be taken in. Joe Rogan, Tucker Carlson, Edward Dutton, Dave Rumid, Tom Bilyeu, Peter Boghossian. These are people from different walks of life. They have a lot of different varied skills. Some of them are YouTubers. Others are like psychologists or former educators, MMA announcers. So there's some variety there. Notice, there are some historical figures that could also make the list, like Marcus Aurelius, but less likely to be speaking to young men currently today unless they're picking up books, which YouTube is probably a primary source for a lot of men. But who's on the ish list would be Andrew Tate, and I'm sure that there are more, but honestly, so there was another podcast that's Fresh and Fit. I wouldn't put them on the list of somebody, but these are possibly some of the biggest audience capture is with these type of men. And those are the folks that you hope and pray that honestly your sons don't listen to, because really the masculinity that they display is one that typically uses women as an object, and that's something that ultimately, hopefully, none of us want for our sons. So masculinity can be a neutral commodity if it's used properly. It isn't toxic. It is, in fact, what's used to defend and build societies that are worth protecting. And so hopefully some of these men might be intuitive for some of us, but they are worth listening to. Again, the good list: Nick Freitas, John Lovell, Chris Williamson, Jordan Peterson, Brad Wilcox, Michael Knowles, Jesus Christ, Rudyard Lynch, Nate Sala, Brandon Tatum, Charlie Kirk, and Patrick Bet-David. those are the men who I hope, if you have an absentee father, I hope you're listening to, so that you can generate some integrity about what it looks like to be a man.